Hi there, my name is Chris Patchett, and this is Zelda. This is a project for Harvard University's CS50 Intro to Game Development, and the specifications of the project are as follows. We are going to, firstly, implement hearts that sometimes drop from vanquished enemies at random, which will heal the player for a full heart when picked up or consumed. Much of this we have already done in Super Mario Bros., so feel free to use some of the code in there. Recall that all entities have a health field, including the player. The player's health is measured numerically, but represented via hearts. Note that he can have half hearts, which means that each individual heart should be worth 2 points of damage. Therefore, when we want to heal the player for a full heart, be sure to increment the health by 2, but be careful it doesn't go above the visual cap of 6, lest we appear to have a bug. Defining a game object that has an on-consume callback is probably of interest here, which we can refer to the Super Mario Bros. To get a sense of, though we are free to implement it however best we see fit. Secondly, we're going to add pots to the game world from the tile sheet at random so the player can pick up, at which point their animation will change to reflect them carrying the pot, which is shown in the character sprite sheets. The player should not be able to swing their sword when in this state. In most of the Zelda titles, the hero is able to lift pots over their head, which they can then walk around the room with and throw at walls or enemies as they choose. Implement this same functionality, you'll need to incorporate the pot game objects, which should be collidable such that the player can't walk through them. And when you press a key in front of them, perhaps enter or return, he should lift the pot above his head with an animation and then transition into a state where he walks around with the pot above his head. This will entail not only adding some new states for the player, but also ensuring a link exists, pun intended, between a pot and the character such that the pot always tracks the player's position so that it can be rendered above his head. Be sure the player cannot swing the sword while in this state, as his hands are full. And thirdly, when carrying a pot, the player should be able to throw the pot. When thrown, the pot will travel in a straight line based on where the player is looking. When it collides with a wall, travels more than 4 tiles, or collides with an enemy, it should disappear. When it collides with an enemy, it should do 1 point of damage to the enemy as well. Carrying the pot is one thing. The next step would be to be able to use the pot as a weapon. Allow the player to throw the pot, effectively turning it into a projectile, and ensure it travels in a straight line depending on where the player is facing when they throw it. When it collides with a wall, an enemy, or if it travels further than 4 tiles in that direction, the pot should shatter, disappearing, although an actual shatter animation is optional. And in my instance, I have just changed it to the shattered looking pot. There's no particle effect or anything like that. But if it collides with an enemy, ensure the pot does 1 point of damage. There are many ways you can achieve this. Think about how you can extend the game object to fit this case, perhaps adding a projectile field and therefore a DX or DY to the game object to allow it to have traveling functionality. Perhaps a fire method as part of a game object that will trigger this behavior as passing in said DX and DY instead. The choice is ours, but game object is flexible enough to make it work. And I believe I actually just tween it from one place to another. Thanks for watching. This has been Zelda.